What a time to be alive. In the early days, I saw Capcom grow to become one of the most respected, most beloved video game publishers of all time. But years later, I saw them take a huge nosedive in quality, stuck in a rut for years that I thought they were never going to climb out of, and now I can say that it's cool to like Capcom again. Capcom's cool again. As far as I'm concerned, they've recently proven that they're back. Darkstalkers 4, please. Earlier this year, Capcom released Resident Evil 2 Remake, which was my most anticipated release of this year, and I was quite pleased with it. You could check out my review right there. And now we've got my second most anticipated game of this year, Devil May Cry 5. I'm going to keep this review semi-spoiler free. I'm going to touch on some of the plot points, but nothing major that would spoil the storyline, because there's a lot of twists and turns that I think are best experienced firsthand. Devil May Cry 5 returns to the classic universe of Devil May Cry. The last full game we saw that wasn't a remaster was DMC, which introduced Emo Dante.
I don't know who I am anymore.
I know exactly who you are. You are Dante.
I did not like this version of the character. While the game itself wasn't bad, I am glad that Capcom decided to abandon that universe and return to the original one that fans have known and loved since 2001, when the original game came out.
I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light!
And Devil May Cry 5 is a direct follow-up to Devil May Cry 4. There's been some confusion over the timeline, which I'm currently working on a full series for in great detail. Stay tuned for that. It used to go Devil May Cry 4, then Devil May Cry 2 at the end. Capcom just recently changed it to Devil May Cry 2 first, then 4 and 5. So chronologically, 5 is now the latest story. A demonic tree pops up from the underworld, and demon attacks are happening everywhere. And this tree feeds on human blood in order to grow a fruit that gives whoever eats it incredible power. So a storyline directly from Dragon Ball Z: The Tree of Might. But having said that, this would be pretty standard Devil May Cry demon plots. And that's essentially what Devil May Cry 5 is, more of the same. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. Having more of the same can be a good thing if it's done right, and this game feels familiar enough to where Devil May Cry players can pick it up and feel instantly familiar with it. Newcomers can play the game and enjoy it too, but I don't feel you could really enjoy the story without having history with the series and all its characters. Really good hack and slash games are in short supply nowadays, so it's refreshing having a new release that you can just jump into and think about nothing more than slashing and shooting enemies with awesome combos for a couple hours. I feel like every major release now is a huge 100-hour open world experience with a million side quests and endless things to do. While I do love those kind of experiences also, it's equally important to have these shorter games that don't take up half your life trying to complete them. Devil May Cry 5 can easily be beaten in less than 9 hours without rushing, without taking into account any unlockable modes. These extra modes add so much replayability, giving the game more challenge, which reminds me of Resident Evil 2. It's such a blast to play. You want to go back and try the harder settings and test yourself so you can just get better and better. Beating Devil Hunter mode unlocks Son of Sparta difficulty. Beating Son of Sparta gets you Dante Must Die. Beating Dante Must Die gets you Heaven or Hell mode, and some new costumes also. And then beating Heaven or Hell gets you Hell or Hell difficulty. So to really 100% this game, it's going to take a good amount of time and a huge amount of skill. One aspect I didn't care much about in Devil May Cry 4 was spending so much of the game playing as Nero. I just didn't find him interesting from a story point of view. He just felt like a diet version of Dante. But 5 improves his character in such a massive way. He ends up being a crucial part of the plot. Most of the questions that fans have had about him are answered, while leaving some more for the future. Nero went from being a character I couldn't care any less about to one of the most well developed in the game. And from a gameplay point of view, he was so much fun to experiment with. His new sidekick Nico, one of the most entertaining additions to the Devil May Cry cast.
It's okay to cry. If you want, Nero, over a loss.
Not cry.
It doesn't make you a crybaby. Does make you a little bitch, though.
There it is.
It's okay to cry if you want. Devil's
Not crying.
Devils cry.
I'm not gonna
Kittens
cry.
cry.
Will you
Meow.
shut up? Will you
Puppies
stop
cry.
it? Look at you. You're
Why don't you
nobody's
cry on my
crying, all
shoulder?
right? Stop
Come
saying
on, cry
cry.
on my shoulder. I know you
You
wanna.
say cry again. Devil May Cry.
She builds him new arms that he can interchange and use, called Devil Breakers. Each one has different abilities, and some are hilarious, like the Pasta Breaker, a devil breaker made from utensils that you can use to eat pasta. I admit, I could have played with the different arms a little more than I did, but I got the deluxe edition of the game that included Mega Man's Buster, and if you know me, you know I was going to use this 95% of the time, which I did. I have no regrets about that. It even shows up in all the cutscenes, and it gives Nero Mega Man animations, such as teleporting into a stage and exploding when dying. Absolutely awesome. Throughout the story, you play as Nero, V, and of course Dante, each with totally different gameplay mechanics. Dante was easily my favorite. He felt the most familiar to me, and I'm very traditional when it comes to Devil May Cry. He has access to multiple weapons, multiple firearms that the player can choose to mess around with at will, but I like whipping out the ebony and ivory handguns and the rebellion sword. Although it was really cool whipping out the ice nunchucks and kicking ass Bruce Lee style, a weapon born from Devil May Cry 3. Dante also has access to multiple fighting styles that you can easily swap between with the D-pad, another mechanic originating in the excellent Devil May Cry 3. And of course he could turn into a demon form that later gets upgraded into an even more powerful demon form. Last time with the DMC reboot, one aspect I missed was Dante's classic humor. Not only has his familiar gameplay returned, now his humor is back full force, just as cheesy as it's always been, and I couldn't be any happier about that. Oh my god! What? This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. While I've been praising this game, as most games, it does have its faults that I feel keep it from being perfect. The third playable character is V. He's completely new to the series, and his gameplay mechanics are vastly different than Dante and Nero. Instead of direct combat, his is more of a distance-based one, and instead of guns and a sword, he attacks using his Panther Demon sidekick and his bird. The Panther acts as the melee attack, and the bird acts as the projectile shooting lasers. V himself doesn't really attack enemies effectively besides finishing them off with one strike, once they take enough damage to be finished off. He also gets his own devil trigger meter and can summon a big monster to help fight. Each one of these, of course, being upgradable with new attacks and new powers. V's gameplay isn't bad, I mean it works, and it works rather well, I didn't find it fun. While I respect Capcom's attempt at making a new character with fresh gameplay, playing as V felt like I had less control over my character's moves. Devil May Cry to me has always been about fast combos and chaining attacks in cool ways, but with V I found myself walking away from the action to keep him from getting hit, and then just mashing X and Y, which can easily kill most enemies and bosses he comes across. And his demon buddies can't even die. If they take too many hits, they turn into these orbs while they rest up, and then they pop right up again, so there's really no incentive to be careful when you're playing as V. There's just not much danger from the enemies he faces. While I can see some players enjoying his fighting style, for me, I enjoy the much more close-range, fast-paced action of Nero and Dante. And speaking of enemies not being a big threat, Devil May Cry 5 also feels slightly too easy overall. While this isn't inherently a bad thing, and I understand it does make it more accessible to new players, Devil May Cry veterans that enjoy a difficult game may find it a little off-putting. Sure, you can access harder settings once you beat the game, but I played the game on Devil Hunter mode the first time around, which is the hardest difficulty initially available, and never felt any sense of real danger. The game gives you so many gold orbs that you can use to revive yourself when you go down. I kept finding more just laying around in the open as I walked around the map, and there's a new online co-op style mechanic where other players can infiltrate your game in certain levels and give you a rating for how well you do, which can earn you more gold orbs on top of the ones you already find in the game. Even on Devil Hunter mode, this makes the game just a bit too easy. Devil May Cry 2 is typically known as the easiest game in the series. This one's very close to being right up there. And a quick note about the microtransactions in the game. You can spend real-world money to buy orbs. Please don't do that. Please save your money. I'm confused as to why they're even present in the game, since the game itself gives you more help than you really need. So microtransactions here are the definition of unnecessary. A special taunt given only to those who paid a heavy price. Whoa! 3 million red orbs? Kiss my ass. But I am curious, how much would that cost? You know what? Let's take a look, actually. $2 for 100,000 red orbs, and that was 3 million orbs. $60. $60 it would cost you to get enough red orbs with real world money. Ha! That could stay right where it is. I will collect my orbs in-game. Thank you very much. And I know there's some people out there that will refuse to buy this game because there's microtransactions even present. But if you choose to do that, you're really missing out on an awesome experience. The microtransactions aren't even noticeable unless you're actively looking for them, and the game clearly wasn't made more difficult to encourage you to spend money on them. Even though it's not completely perfect, if you're a Devil May Cry fan, Devil May Cry 5 is a must-have that you should not miss. It's got the best storyline in the series, it's got new characters that fit right in, most of the familiar ones we know and love return. It's a love letter to Devil May Cry. I love this game. If you're not a Devil May Cry fan but you do like action games, you're going to find an excellent hack and slash action experience. And if you're interested in it, I do have an Amazon affiliate link in the description below, so you can buy it and help out the channel at the same time. I hope you enjoyed listening to my opinion on Devil May Cry 5, and I will catch you guys next time. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to smash that like button with all of your strength. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss any new content. You can follow me on social media or go into my community tab for updates. And for as little as $1 a month, you can support the channel directly on Patreon. This is Fabian, I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.